At the edge of the old family compound, Paegosa stood with his only daughter and could not look her in the face. Adesuwa stood beside the low mud wall with her wrapper held tightly around her body. She was 19, but fear made her look younger, like a girl pushed out of childhood with no warning. Her coral beads, the last gift from her late mother, rested cold against her neck. The simple blue dress she wore had faded from many washings, yet she had chosen it because it still carried the smell of home. Chief Osagie Igbinovia's black car waited beyond the compound gate. It looked too polished for that poor yard, too silent, too powerful. The driver stood by the door with his cap in his hands. Behind the car were two men from the chief's estate, broad-shouldered and quiet. Nobody spoke loudly. Even the chickens moved carefully, as though the whole compound knew that something sacred was being taken away. Paegosa held his old hat in both hands. Once, those hands had been strong enough to clear farmland before sunrise and return home with yams on his shoulders. Now, they trembled like dry leaves. Death had eaten the man little by little until only shame remained. "My daughter," he said at last, and his voice cracked like dry wood in fire. Adesuwa did not answer. Begging would not change anything. The decision had already been made in the night, while she sat outside under the mango tree and heard her father pleading with men whose hearts were harder than stone. The death had begun after the fire that destroyed their cassava farm and the small cocoa plot her mother had planted before she died. Pa Egosa borrowed money to buy seedlings and pay laborers. He told Adesuwa it was temporary. The rains would return, the land would forgive them, and harvest would come again. But the man who lent him money was not the type who allowed anybody to rise again. Alhaji Musa Danladi was known from Uselu market to the villages near the Ovia River. Some called him businessman, others called him benefactor when he was close enough to hear. But behind closed doors, people called him the vulture. He lent money to widows, traders, farmers and fishermen, smiling with gold teeth while his clerk wrote figures that changed like witchcraft. A small loan became a mountain. A missed week became a curse. Land, goats, shops, houses, even family honor disappeared into his hands. Then, 3 nights before, Alhaji Musa came himself in a white kaftan, smelling of expensive perfume. He looked at the broken roof, the empty barn, the cracked walls, and then his eyes settled on Adesuwa. He smiled as if he had found gold under ashes. "You have nothing again, Egosa," he said softly, "but you still have something valuable in this house." Adesuwa remembered the silence that followed. She remembered her father falling to his knees. She remembered the shame of hearing her own name spoken like the price of a goat in the market. Alhaji Musa had given him until sunrise. Either Adesuwa would be brought to his house or blood would answer the debt. That was when Paegosa ran to Chief Osagie. The gate creaked. Chief Osagie stepped out of the car. He was tall, dressed in dark native attire, sewn with quiet elegance. Coral beads circled his wrists. His face was strong, almost severe, with eyes that held neither cruelty nor comfort. When he walked into the compound, the whispers outside died at once. Paegosa bent his head. "Chief, I have brought her." The words struck Adesuwa like a slap. Brought her. As if she were a calabash of palm wine, a sack of gari, a young goat tied for exchange. Chief Osagie looked at her, but not the way Alhaji Musa's men had looked. His gaze did not crawl over her body. It rested on her face, steady and unreadable. That made it no less frightening. Sometimes power was quiet. "You understand what this means?" Chief Osagie asked Paegosa. The old man nodded. "I understand, Before the elders, before God, before my ancestors, I am giving her into your protection." Adesuwa lifted her head sharply. "Protection? Papa, is that what you are calling it?" Paegosa flinched. "Adesuwa, no, do not call my name like you are still my father. You stood there while they priced me. Now you are giving me to a stranger and saying it is protection." A murmur moved among the neighbors, but Chief Osagie raised one hand and the murmurs stopped. "Let her speak," he said. His voice surprised her. It was low, controlled, but not harsh. Adesuwa turned to him with wet eyes, anger fighting terror inside her chest. "And you, Chief," she said, "what do you want from me? My father's debt is not mine. I have done nothing to deserve this." Something moved across his face, so quickly she could not name it. Pain, perhaps, or memory. "No," he said, "you have done nothing." The answer unsettled her more than cruelty would have done. If he knew she was innocent, why was he still taking her? At the gate, one of Chief Osagie's men led forward a white stallion with a shining coat. It was the horse Alhaji Musa had coveted for years, the horse he had once tried to buy and been refused. Chief Osagie had brought it as part of the bargain, not for Paegosa, but to settle the debt and silence the vulture long enough to keep Adesuwa out of his claws. Yet, all Adesuwa saw was the price of her own freedom walking on four legs. The driver opened the car door. The sound was small, but it cut through her like a knife. Paegosa took one step toward her. "My child, please. If there was another way, I would have taken it. Alhaji Musa would have destroyed us. He would have—" "Enough," she whispered. Chief Osagie stepped aside, leaving the path to the car open. He did not drag her. He did not command. He simply waited, like a man who understood that even a trapped bird must be allowed to flap its wings once before the cage closed. Adesuwa walked. Each step from the compound to the car felt longer than the road to Lagos. Her hands shook, but she kept her chin lifted. When she reached the car, she paused and looked back. Paegosa had covered his face with both hands. For one heartbeat, pity rose in her. Then the hurt swallowed it. She entered the car. Inside, the air smelled of leather, rain, and faint sandalwood. Chief Osagie entered from the other side. The door closed, shutting out the compound, the neighbors, her father, her old life. The car began to move. Adesuwa watched through the window as the house grew smaller. The mango tree disappeared first, then the roof, then the gate. She pressed her fingers into her palm until the pain steadied her. She would not cry, not before this man, not before the road that was carrying her away like a river with no return. "Will I be locked inside your house?" she asked suddenly. Chief Osagie turned his head. "No." "Will I be made a servant?" "No." "Will I be given away if you become tired of me?" His eyes sharpened. "Never say that again," he said quietly. "No woman under my roof is used like property." Adesuwa laughed once, bitter and small. "But you received me as payment." "I received you because the alternative was Alhaji Musa," he said, "and because your father begged me before witnesses to make you my wife, not my possession." Wife. The word landed on her chest like a stone. Adesuwa turned back to the window. Marriage was something she had imagined once, with shy laughter, with music, family, gele tied high, aunties dancing, jollof rice steaming in large pots, children running everywhere. Not this silent road, not this cold bargain. "I do not know you," she said. "No," he answered, "you do not. I do not love you. I did not ask you to." That answer pulled her eyes back to him. His face remained grave, but there was no insult in his tone. "Then why marry me?" "For protection," he said. "As my wife, even in name, your honor cannot be dragged through the market by his dirty hands. Musa may hate me, but he would think twice before touching what the law, the elders, and the palace would recognize as mine. Mine. She stiffened. He noticed. Not mine like cattle, he said. Mine to defend. She wanted to hate him for saying it, but the difference, small as it was, entered her heart like a needle of light through a shut door. She rejected it immediately. Hope was dangerous. The gates opened. The car rode into the estate, and Adesuwa saw men carrying baskets from the palm oil storehouse, women spreading cocoa beans to dry, stable boys leading horses towards a long building roofed with red tiles. Everything moved with order and discipline. No one shouted. No one laughed. It was as if the whole estate had learned to breathe quietly because its master did. The car stopped before the main house. A young woman hurried down the steps, dressed in a neat green blouse and wrapper. Her eyes were kind, though cautious. She bowed slightly. "Welcome, Chief." Chief Osagie stepped out and turned to Adesuwa. He did not offer his hand. Perhaps he knew she would refuse it. Instead, he stood aside, giving her space to leave the car by herself. "This is Efe," he said. "She will attend to you. Anything you need, tell her." Adesuwa stepped onto the stone courtyard. The ground felt strange under her feet, too smooth after the red earth of home. Somewhere inside that house, her future waited like a room without air. At the entrance, Chief Osagie stopped. "You will rest today," he said. "Tomorrow, the elders will come. The marriage rites must be completed properly, so no man can question your place here." Her stomach tightened. "And after that?" His gaze held hers. "After that, you will live here with dignity. I will not force your heart. I will not force your body. Whatever this arrangement has taken from you, I will not take more." The words were spoken without softness, yet they struck her more deeply than any tenderness could have done. She searched his face for mockery and found none. Only severity, only sorrow locked behind discipline. Adesuwa wanted to believe him. That frightened her most of all. He inclined his head and walked away, his footsteps echoing across the courtyard until the house swallowed him. Efe touched Adesuwa's arm lightly. "Come, my lady." This time, Adesuwa did not correct her. She entered the house. Cool air wrapped around her at once, carrying the scent of polished wood, old books, and incense. The hallway was wide, lined with portraits of stern men in coral beads and women with proud eyes. Their painted faces watched her like ancestors, judging whether she had the strength to survive among them. Efe led her upstairs to a room with white curtains, a carved bed, and the balcony overlooking the gardens. The beauty of it hurt. A prison could still have flowers outside the window. When the door closed behind her, Adesuwa stood in the middle of the room without moving. She thought of her father, alone in the ruined compound. She thought of Alhaji Musa's gold-toothed smile. She thought of Chief Osagie's promise. Then, at last, the tears came. They fell silently at first, then with force, bending her body until she sank onto the edge of the bed. She cried for the girl she had been that morning, for the mother who was not alive to protect her, for the father who had loved her badly, for the stranger who now carried her future in his hands. Outside, clouds gathered over the estate, dark and heavy with rain. The first drops struck the glass like small warnings. Adesuwa lifted her head. She had been brought into this house as a bargain, but deep inside, beneath fear and humiliation, something stubborn remained alive. Her father had bowed. Alhaji Musa had threatened. Chief Osagie had claimed the right to defend her, but none of them had touched the secret place where her own will still burned. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "If this is my new life," she whispered to the empty room, "then I will not enter it as a dead woman." Thunder rolled over the palm trees, and in that sound, Adesuwa felt the first small stir of a strength she did not yet understand. The next morning came with the sound of rainwater dropping from the roof and the smell of wet earth rising from the estate. Adesuwa had not slept well. Each time her eyes closed, she saw her father's covered face, Alhaji Musa's gold-toothed smile, and the black car carrying her away from the only life she had known. When dawn finally touched the curtains, she was sitting upright on the bed, arms wrapped around herself, watching pale light crawl across the floor. A soft knock came at the door. Adesuwa wiped her tears with her palm. "Come in," she said. Efe entered carrying a wooden tray. Steam rose from ginger tea, and beside it sat fried plantain, akara, and bread wrapped in white cloth. The kindness of the food almost broke Adesuwa again. "Good morning, my lady," Efe said quietly. "Please do not call me that." The young woman paused, then nodded. "Good morning, Adesuwa." The sound of her name made the room feel less cold. Efe opened the curtains. Below, the estate looked washed clean by rain. Palm trees bent under the wind. Workers moved along the paths with baskets on their heads, their voices low and careful. "The elders will arrive before noon," Efe said. "Chief Osagie asked that you eat and rest your mind." "Can a mind rest when it has been sold?" Efe's face tightened with pity. "People are talking, but I know this house. Chief Osagie is not like Alhaji Musa." "Truth does not remove fear," Adesuwa whispered. "No," Efe admitted, "but sometimes it gives fear somewhere to sit down." Efe moved to a carved wardrobe and opened it. "Where did all this come from?" "Madam Ivy ordered them prepared. She is Chief's aunt, the woman of the house when tradition is involved." As if summoned by her name, another knock came. This one was firmer. Efe straightened immediately and the door opened. Madam Ivy entered like a woman who had never doubted her place in any room. She was not young, but age had sharpened her dignity. Her wrapper was tied with perfect grace, and coral beads sat on her neck and wrists like signs of command. Her eyes studied Adesuwa from head to toe, not with cruelty, but with the seriousness of someone measuring cloth before cutting it. "So, this is Egosa's daughter," she said. Adesuwa lowered her gaze. "Yes, ma." Madam Ivy came closer. "You have your mother's eyes." Adesuwa lifted her head. "You knew my mother?" "I knew Osei when she was still laughing louder than market women. We danced together during Igwe festival before suffering began to choose people one by one. Your mother was a good woman, too good for the kind of world men like Musa have built." Then Madam Ivy's voice became practical again. "The elders will come. Your father has already spoken. Chief Osagie has agreed. The bride price will be placed properly before witnesses, not because anybody is buying you, but because custom must stand straight when wicked men are looking for crooked paths." "Will my father come?" "He is already on the estate, in the outer compound. He is ashamed." Adesuwa looked away. "Anger is not a bad thing, my child," Madam Ivy said. "It proves your spirit is not dead. But today, keep your head clear. And Haji Musa must not find any hole in this matter. By sunset, no man will be able to say you are a girl without protection." "And what will I be? A wife to a man who does not love me?" Madam Ivy sighed. "Love is not the only thing that can begin a marriage. Sometimes respect comes first. Sometimes safety. Sometimes two wounded people sit in the same room for many months before one of them finally remembers how to smile." She turned to Efe. "Prepare her. Today she must look like a daughter of Benin, not like fear has swallowed her." When Madam Ivy left, Efe brought warm water and helped Adesuwa wash. She dressed her in a white lace blouse and a deep wine wrapper, then fastened the coral beads around her neck. "These are mine," Adesuwa said softly. Yes, Chief said you should wear what belongs to your mother if you wished. Adesuwa froze. He said that? Ife nodded. He told me not to remove them unless you requested it. By late morning, the rain had stopped. Elders in white and red caps sat beneath a canopy in the courtyard. A kola nut tray was placed on a small table. Bottles of palm wine stood nearby. When Ife led her downstairs, Adesuwa felt every eye turn. Chief Osagie stood near the elders in cream-colored traditional attire with coral beads at his neck and wrists. He looked like a man carved from duty. Pa Egosa stood at the edge of the canopy. He looked older than he had the previous morning. When he saw Adesuwa, his lips trembled. The eldest man lifted the kola nut and prayed in Edo, his voice slow and deep. He called on God, on ancestors, on the land that sees all hidden things. He asked that lies be exposed, that enemies be put to shame, that a woman taken from danger should not enter greater danger. Then Pa Egosa spoke. He did not dress the truth with fine cloth. Before the elders, before the workers, before Chief Osagie, he confessed the debt. He spoke of the fire, the ruined farm, the money borrowed from Alhaji Musa, the interest that grew beyond reason, the threats that followed. His voice broke when he said Musa had demanded Adesuwa. Pa Egosa bowed his head. I failed as a father, he said, but I came to Chief Osagie because I knew if my daughter entered Musa's house, she would never return as herself. I begged the chief to cover her with his name. I begged him to stand where I was too weak to stand. The elders turned to Chief Osagie. He stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the courtyard. I, Osagie Igbinovia, son of this house, accept Adesuwa not as payment, not as spoil, not as property, but as a woman placed under my honor. Let every ear here hear me. No man will drag her name in shame. No creditor will threaten her body. No enemy will use her father's weakness to destroy her future. From today, before custom and before witnesses, she will carry my name and my protection. Adesuwa stared at him. His words sounded like a wall being raised around her, stone by stone. Yet walls could protect and imprison at the same time. She did not know which one he was building. The rites continued. Kola was broken. Palm wine was poured. Gifts were presented. Cloth, beads, yams, bags of rice, a carved box of money, and documents that proved the debt had been settled. The white stallion had already been delivered to Musa's men at the boundary, a bitter sacrifice made to keep worse hands away from her. When the elders asked Adesuwa to accept the cup, her fingers trembled. If she refused, what would happen? Would Musa come before nightfall? Would her father's blood stain the compound? Would Chief Osagie still defend her if she rejected the only shield custom allowed? She took the cup. The palm wine touched her lips, sweet and sharp. The elders nodded. Pa Egosa covered his face again. Chief Osagie watched her in silence, and for one strange moment, she thought he looked wounded, as if her forced courage hurt him more than her tears had. After the rites, there was no celebration, no drums, no dancing, no laughter. This was not a wedding feast. It was a rescue wearing the clothes of marriage. By evening, Adesuwa was led back to her room. Efe loosened the gele from her head and removed the heavier beads. "You were brave today," Efe said. "I was cornered." Sometimes, bravery is only what cornered people do when falling is not allowed. Adesuwa sat before the mirror and looked at herself. Wife. The word stood behind her reflection like a stranger. A knock came after sunset. Efe opened the door and stepped aside. Chief Osagie stood outside. Adesuwa rose at once, her body stiff with sudden fear. Efe quietly left the room, closing the door but not latching it fully. Chief Osagie remained near the door. He did not come closer. I came to know if you need anything. Adesuwa almost laughed. I need yesterday to return. His eyes lowered briefly. That I cannot give. Silence stretched between them. Your father will remain here tonight, he said. Tomorrow he will return home with 2 men from my estate. They will repair what can be repaired and make sure Musa's people do not trouble him. Adesuwa's anger faltered. Why? Because Musa will not forget the insult. The insult of not getting me? Yes. Chief Osagie looked at the open window where night insects sang in the wet garden. Musa smiles in public, but he has ruined families quietly for years. Men like him do not stop because one debt is paid. They stop only when someone stronger blocks the road. And you are that someone? I am trying to be. Adesuwa folded her hands together. Madam Ivy said there was someone before me. His face changed. All life seemed to withdraw from his eyes, leaving only a darkness carefully controlled. Her name was Omoreji, he said after a long silence. We were to be married. She died 3 years ago. Adesuwa's breath softened despite herself. How? By the river road beyond the old rubber trees. Her horse returned without her. They found her at the bottom of the ravine after the rains. The room became colder. I am sorry, he nodded once. Since then, people have spoken many stories. Some said it was accident. Some said curse. Some said the house swallowed happiness because I did not smile enough to keep it. That is cruel. People fear sorrow when it stays too long in one place. They give it names so they can sleep. He turned back to her. That is why I gave my word yesterday. I will not touch you without your consent. I know what it means for life to be taken without permission. Then what do you expect from me? Nothing tonight, nothing tomorrow. Eat, rest, learn the house. You may write to your father. You may visit the garden, but do not leave the estate without informing me or the head steward. So I am free, but watched. You are protected because Musa is angry. Protection again, she whispered. Yes, he said, until you decide what other word can stand between us. Chief Osagie stepped back. Good night, Adesuwa. He left before she could answer. That night, sleep still refused her. She lay on the wide bed and listened to the estate settling into darkness. Her life had changed in one day, but not in a simple way. She had been taken from her father, yet saved for Musa. She had been married without love, yet promised respect. She had entered a house full of silence, yet heard inside it the echo of old pain. She pressed her mother's coral beads against her chest. Mama, she whispered, what do I do with a man who is both cage and shield? No answer came. Only the night breeze moved the curtains gently. Before dawn, Adesuwa finally slept, but even in sleep, her hand remained closed around the beads, as if holding on to the last piece of herself while the new life waited outside the door. For 3 days, Adesuwa moved through Chief Osagie's house like a visitor inside her own dream. Nobody insulted her or touched her without permission. Yet, every kindness still carried the weight of what had happened. The servants bowed when she passed, and the men in the courtyard stepped aside as if her new name had built an invisible fence around her body. She had become the wife of Chief Osagie Ibinovia, but inside her heart, she still felt like Pa Egosa's frightened daughter standing at the compound gate. On the 4th morning, Efe found her by the window, watching workers spread cocoa beans under the sun. Palm fronds shimmered after the rain. "You cannot stay inside forever," Efe said gently. "I am not hiding. You are watching life from the window. That one is almost the same thing." A faint smile came and vanished on Adesuwa's lips. "You speak like an elder woman." "My auntie says suffering can add years to a person's mouth." Adesuwa turned. "Your auntie works here?" "Yes, Madam Ivy brought me after my parents died." "How did they die?" Efe's hands slowed on the folded cloth. "My father borrowed money from Alhaji Musa after flood spoiled his yam farm. Later, Musa sent men to seize our land. My father went to complain, but he was beaten on the road at night. My mother did not survive the sorrow for long." Adesuwa's fingers tightened around the window frame. "Musa did that?" "Nobody could prove it. That is how he survives. He uses hungry men, frightened men, men who owe him too much." "Then why has nobody stopped him?" "Who will stop a man who lends money to chiefs, drinks tea with officers, pays school fees in public, and destroys people only when doors are closed? Many know the truth. Few are brave enough to say it where it matters." "And Chief Osagie?" Efe looked toward the door. "Chief has tried in his own way, but that one is not my story to tell." Before Adesuwa could ask more, a servant came. "Madam, Chief asks if you will join him in the courtyard." Outside, Chief Osagie stood in a simple white kaftan, speaking with the head steward. Without coral beads and ceremony, he looked like a man who had not slept enough in many years. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning, Chief." "You may call me Osagie if you wish." His name felt too intimate on her tongue. "Chief is easier." He accepted the distance. "I thought you might like to see the estate, not as a prisoner looking through glass, but as someone who lives here." Adesuwa glanced at Efe, who nodded softly. "I will come," she said. They walked first through the palm grove. Workers greeted them with respect. Osagie introduced her without ceremony. "This is Adesuwa," he said at each stop. "She is mistress of this house now. Treat her with the respect you give me." The words embarrassed her, but they also steadied something inside her. He did not call her the girl from Egosa's debt. He gave her a place, even if she did not yet know how to stand in it. They passed the oil press and the cocoa sheds. Osagie spoke little, but when he did, his voice changed. He knew the names of workers' children, which roof leaked, and which field needed drainage. Adesuwa listened in spite of herself. The cold chief had a memory for ordinary people. From there, they walked toward the stables. The scent of hay, leather, and animals wrapped around her. Horses shifted in their stalls, snorting softly. Up close, they seemed powerful and nervous, with eyes deep enough to hold secrets. Osagie's face softened for the first time. He approached a dark brown mare with a white mark on her forehead. The animal lifted her head and pushed her nose into his palm. "This is Agugo," he said. The name meant joy, though the way he said it carried sorrow. "She is beautiful," Adesuwa whispered. "She belonged to Omoreji." The air changed. "The woman who died," Adesuwa said. "Yes," Osagie stroked the mare's neck. "Omoreji loved horses. She said horses never lied. If they feared you, they showed it. If they trusted you, they gave you their strength." Adesuwa watched his hand move with a gentleness she had not known he possessed. For a moment, he was simply someone standing before the last living piece of a lost love. "You miss her," Adesuwa said before she could stop herself. His hand paused. "Every day." "Then why bring me here? Why give me a place beside a memory that is still alive?" He turned to her, and there was no anger in his eyes. "Because you should know the shadows in the house where you live. Secrets make fear grow teeth." A young stable boy brought a smaller horse forward. chestnut-colored and calm. Osagie took the reins. Have you ridden before? No. Would you like to learn? Now? Only if you want. That question again. Want, permission, choice. He offered such words like a man placing water before someone dying of thirst, then looking away so she would not feel watched while drinking. Adesuwa looked at the horse. Fear trembled through her, but another feeling came with it. She was tired of fear deciding everything. Yes, she said, but if I fall, I will blame you. For the first time, something close to amusement touched his eyes. That is fair. He showed her how to place her foot, how to hold the saddle, how to settle her weight. He asked before touching her elbow, before adjusting her hand, before guiding her posture. Each small respect entered her heart quietly, confusing her anger. The horse took a step. Adesuwa gasped and clutched the reins too tightly. Breathe, Osagie said. If you fear too loudly, the horse will hear it. How can fear be loud? Yours is shouting. She wanted to be offended, but the truth of it made her laugh. The sound surprised both of them. It was small, almost broken, but real. They moved around the yard slowly. After a few minutes, Adesuwa's shoulders relaxed. The rhythm of the animal beneath her became steady. When they stopped, she looked down at him with bright eyes. I did not fall. No, he said, you did not. It means I am not completely useless in this new life. His expression grew serious. You were never useless. The words struck deeper than he knew. Adesuwa looked away quickly, afraid that he would see tears. Later, they rode in a small cart toward the far end of the estate, where a narrow road climbed between rubber trees. The air there was cooler, and Osagie became quiet again. At the top of the rise, Adesuwa saw the river valley below. Brown water moved between green banks. Beyond it, the old road curved near a ravine where stones jutted like broken teeth. She knew before he spoke. This is where they found her, she said. Osagie's jaw tightened. Yes. The driver stopped at a distance. Osagie stepped down but did not move toward the edge. Adesuwa followed, careful with her feet. Was she alone? She was returning from visiting a widow whose debt I had paid, he said. I warned her not to use this road after heavy rain. They said the horse slipped. They said the ground gave way. But you do not believe that. He looked at the ravine for a long time. I do not know what I believe. I only know Musa was angry with me that month. I had bought 3 farms from under his hand and returned them to their owners. Omoreji told me she had seen one of his men near the road days before she died. I told myself I was imagining enemies because grief needed a face. Did you tell anyone? With what proof? Suspicion is not justice. There was bitterness in his voice now. Adesuwa looked down at the ravine and imagined a young woman falling, her cries swallowed by rain and distance. Compassion rose before she could stop it. I am sorry, she said again, but this time the words carried more than politeness. Osagie glanced at her. Something in his face softened, then closed. We should go back. The ride back was silent. Yet it was not the same silence that had filled the car on the day he took her from her father's compound. This silence had weight, but it also had understanding. Adesuwa now knew that grief lived in the estate like another resident. It sat in the stables, walked the river road, and slept in the master's unsmiling face. When they returned, Ife was waiting near the veranda. Madam Ivy is asking for you, she told Adesuwa. Your father has come. Adesuwa's body went still. Osagie noticed. You do not have to see him today. I do, she said, though her voice was barely steady. If I do not, the pain will remain standing at the door. He nodded. I will be nearby if you need me. Paegosa sat beneath an almond tree. He looked smaller than before, as if shame had eaten his bones. When he saw her, he rose too quickly and almost stumbled. "Adesuwa." She stopped several steps away. "Why did you come?" "To see you, to beg you again, even if you refuse me until my grave." Her eyes burned. "Do you know what it felt like, standing there while men discussed me like property? Entering this house not knowing whether I was saved or destroyed?" Baegosa began to cry silently. "I know I broke something that may never join again." "Then why?" His hands trembled. "Because Musa came with 3 men and a gun under his robe. He said if I did not bring you, they would take you before morning. He said he would burn what remained of our house with me inside it. I ran to Osagie because I had seen him stand against Musa before. I asked for marriage because only that would make Musa afraid of touching your name." Adesuwa pressed a hand to her chest. The pain did not vanish. It changed shape. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I was ashamed. I thought if you saw my fear, you would never again see me as your father. I already do not know how to see you. I deserve that." For a long time, they stood beneath the almond tree, separated by love, betrayal, and the dust of everything they had lost. Then Adesuwa stepped closer, not enough to embrace him, but enough that he could breathe without shaking. "I cannot forgive everything today," she said, "but I understand more than I did yesterday." Baegosa bowed his head, tears falling onto his hands. "That is more mercy than I deserve." From the veranda, Osagie watched without intruding. Adesuwa felt his presence, solid and silent. Not a cage in that moment, a shield perhaps, or something she was not ready to name. By evening, she returned to her room exhausted, but she did not feel as empty as before. Pain still lived in her, but it no longer stood alone. Around it, other things had begun to gather: anger, compassion, curiosity, and a dangerous seed of trust. As night settled over the estate, drums sounded faintly from a distant village. Adesuwa stood at the balcony and watched lamps flicker across the compound. Somewhere below, Chief Osagie crossed the courtyard toward his study, his figure tall and solitary in the dusk. She remembered his hand resting gently on Agoho's neck. She remembered his voice saying she was never useless. She remembered the ravine and the grief he carried without asking anyone to help him bear it. Her heart tightened in a way that frightened her. "No," she whispered to herself. "Do not start looking for tenderness in a man you were forced to marry." But the night did not answer, and far beyond the estate walls, in a large house filled with expensive rugs and armed men, Alhaji Musa Danladi received the news that Adesuwa had been seen walking beside Chief Osagie through the palm groves. He listened without blinking. Then he smiled, slowly, showing the gold tooth that had made many debtors lose sleep. "So the little wife is settling in," he said. The men around him stayed silent. "Let her settle," he murmured. "The higher a person climbs, the sweeter the fall will be." Outside, thunder rolled again over Benin land, and the storm that had begun in one poor compound moved quietly toward every heart in its path. In the days that followed, Adesuwa began to learn Chief Osagie's house by its sounds. The courtyard swept at dawn, women's low voices in the kitchen, carts creaking toward the cocoa sheds, the evening smell of firewood and pepper soup. The estate no longer felt like one silent war, but sorrow still moved through its corridors. Efe walked with her through the inner courtyard, showed her the palm oil jars, the old family shrine behind white cloth, and the portraits of proud ancestors. Adesuwa touched nothing. She only listened and thought of her mother, of Omoreji, and of women whose names remained after their voices had disappeared. Madam Ivy noticed the change before anyone else and told her that fear would not leave simply because doors were strong. It would leave only when Adesuwa stopped asking the walls for permission to belong. That evening, rain threatened but did not fall. Adesuwa wandered toward the quiet wing where Chief Osagie's study stood. She had passed the door many times but never entered. It was always closed and the servants treated it like a chapel. This time, the door was not fully shut. She should have walked away, but curiosity pulled her closer. Inside, the room smelled of paper, leather, and old tobacco. Shelves climbed the walls, filled with books, ledgers, and ruled maps. On one wall hung a map of villages surrounding Benin City, marked with small black dots. The room looked like the battlefield of someone who fought with ink because guns would destroy too much. Then she noticed the box beneath the desk. It was dark and polished but unlocked. Inside were bundles of papers tied with red thread. Each bundle carried a name: Mrs. Esohe Okafo, Pamonde Aigbe, Iya Risi Balogun, the widow of Sani Audu. Some papers bore Alhaji Musa's seal. Others were receipts written in Chief Osagie's firm handwriting. Across many of them, one word appeared again and again: settled. Adesuwa's breath caught. One bundle told of a woman who borrowed money to save her sick child, then lost her stall when interest swallowed the loan. Osagie had paid the debt, bought back the stall, and returned it without adding his name to the public record. Another bundle belonged to a fisherman whose canoe had been seized. Another to a farmer whose land title had almost passed into Musa's hands. The cold man who spoke little had been quietly gathering broken lives and placing them back into their owner's hands. This was why Musa hated him. Osagie had been cutting people free, one death at a time. A sound came from the doorway. Adesuwa turned sharply. Chief Osagie stood there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. His gaze moved from her face to the open box, then back again. "I should not have entered," she said. "No," he replied, "you should not have." The quietness of his voice hurt more than anger. She placed the papers back carefully. "I wanted to understand you." "And did you?" She looked at the box. "Less and more. Those documents are dangerous because they prove what Musa has done, because they prove what many people are too afraid to say. You paid all these debts? Some, not all. I am not God. I used money where I could, influence where money failed, and silence where noise would put people in danger. Why hide it? Because gratitude can expose people. If Musa knows who accepted my help, he returns to punish them. Then they do not speak for you because they do not know. I do not need them to speak for me, but you need them to speak against him." The sentence settled between them like harmattan dust. Adesuwa understood then. The receipts were the bones of a case he had been building for years, but papers were not enough. Musa's crimes were carried inside human throats, and fear had locked those throats shut. "You want to take him before the Oba's council," she said. "And the court if necessary," he answered. "Anywhere his money cannot enter first." "Can such a place still be found?" His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw weariness without disguise. "I do not know." The honesty moved her more than confidence would have done. Families had been reduced to whispers because one man had turned death into a chain. "I can help you," she said. "No," he answered too quickly. Adesuwa stiffened. "You have not even heard how." "I heard enough in your voice. You think because I am a woman, I should sit by the window and wait while men decide who suffers. I think because you are already Musa's target, you should not step into his road. I was his target before I entered your house. Hiding behind your walls will not make him forget me. It may keep you alive. Alive is not the same as free. The words struck him. His face darkened, not with anger at her, but with the pain of knowing she has spoken truth. People may fear your name, she continued. They may think your help comes with hidden price, but they will know me. I came from the same kind of compound. Musa tried to claim me too. If I speak to the women, the widows, the traders, maybe they will answer. No, Osagie said again. I cannot protect every step you take outside this estate. You cannot protect me from every shadow inside it either. I am tired of danger deciding my life before I arrive. Silence filled the study. Outside, thunder rolled over the trees. Osagie rested both hands on the desk and lowered his head. When Omoreji died, he said, I told myself I should have stopped her from going that day. Grief makes a man build prisons and call them protection. Adesuwa's anger softened, but she did not step back. I am not Omoreji. I know. Then do not bury me inside her grave. He lifted his head slowly. Rain began striking the window. Adesuwa felt her own heart beat in her throat. I am sorry, she whispered. No, he said. You are right. Those words changed the room. Osagie looked out at the wet courtyard. Musa has men in every market. Drivers, clerks, debtors, guards, messengers who sell gossip for coins. If you visit families openly as my wife, he will know before you return. Then I will not go as your wife. He turned. I will wear simple clothes, she said. Efe can go with me. We will visit women first. I can listen before asking anything. No. This time the word carried less force. Adesuwa noticed. You are thinking. I am thinking of how many ways this can go wrong. Then think also of how many things are already wrong. He almost smiled, but sorrow stopped it from becoming real. You argue like Madam Ivy. She is a wise woman. She is a dangerous woman. So am I, maybe. A brief silence followed, and for the first time, something like warmth passed through the study. Then his face became serious again. You will not go alone. Never. If this happens, I choose the roads, the times, the people watching from a distance. If this happens, I have not agreed. But you have stopped refusing. He said nothing, and that silence was close enough for tonight. He looked at her for a long moment. You should be afraid. I am afraid, she said. But fear has been living with me since my mother died. I cannot continue feeding it the best part of my life. He came closer, not enough to threaten, but enough that she could smell rain on his clothes. Adesuwa, Musa is not only greedy, he is cruel. If he discovers you are helping me gather testimonies, he will not come first for me. He will come for what he thinks will break me. Her chest tightened. And you think that is me? His silence answered. Heat rose to her face, sudden and confusing. He looked away, as though he had revealed too much. I mean, he knows you are under my protection, he said. No, she replied softly. That is not what you meant. For one dangerous moment, the study seemed smaller than before. Adesuwa saw not the stern chief, but the wounded soul beneath the title. A man fighting a monster in silence and refusing to force the living woman beside him. Her anger did not vanish. Her fear did not vanish. But something else stood among them now. Respect. Osagie stepped back first. It is late. Yes. You should return to your room before Madame Ivy comes looking and accuses me of keeping you in my study to discuss war. Is that not what we discussed? A faint shadow of amusement touched his mouth. Yes, war. Adesuwa moved toward the door, then stopped. Chief, he looked at her. Those families you helped, one day they should know it was you. No. Why? Because kindness done for praise is only another kind of trade. She held his gaze. And kindness hidden too long can look like coldness. He had no answer to that. That night, Adesuwa could not sleep. She sat by the window with her mother's beads in her lap and thought of the names in the box. Each paper had been a person. Each person had been afraid. She had been afraid too. Maybe that was why she could reach them. The next morning, she went to the kitchen before breakfast. The women there fell silent at once, surprised to see her among the pots and smoke. Efe hurried after her, whispering that Madam Ivy would complain if she stained her dress. I want to help, Adesuwa said. The cook, Mama Uyi, blinked. Help, madam? Yes, with something simple. The women did not know what to do with that, but Adesuwa sat on a low stool, took a knife and began peeling yam. Her fingers were slow, and one woman laughed softly when she cut a piece crookedly. Adesuwa laughed too, and the sound loosened the room. By the time the morning meal was ready, she had heard more than she expected. A seized farm, a missing husband, a woman who paid the same debt 3 times and still owed more. The stories came wrapped in jokes and sighs, but Adesuwa recognized pain hiding under ordinary speech. When she left the kitchen, Osagie was standing at the end of the passage. You went gathering testimonies in my own kitchen, he said. She lifted her chin. I went to peel yam. With strategy, with poor skill. His mouth almost curved. Mama Uyi says you are stubborn. She is correct. She also says the women like you. That may be useful. It may be dangerous. Everything useful seems to be dangerous in this house. For a few seconds, they looked at each other, and the quiet between them was no longer empty. Then Osagie sighed. Tomorrow morning, we will visit Iyarisi near the old market road. Her husband lost his land to Musa. You will wear simple clothes. Efe will come. 2 of my men will follow far behind. If I say we leave, we leave. Adesuwa's heart leapt. You agree? I agreed to 1 visit. Only 1. After that, we decide again. She smiled before she could stop herself. It was not a wide smile, but it was bright enough to change her face. Osagie looked at her as if the sight had struck him unexpectedly. For one breath, all his caution disappeared. Then he looked down. Do not make me regret this, he said. Do not make me useless, she answered. He nodded slowly. Never. Later, as Adesuwa prepared for the day ahead, Alhaji Musa sat in his house across town, listening to a frightened debtor kneeling on the floor. They are asking questions, the debtor whispered. In the estate kitchen, in the market, people are saying Chief Osagie's new wife is not like other women. Musa leaned back in his chair. The room smelled of incense and money. His gold tooth flashed when he smiled. So the little bird has found her voice, he said. The debtor lowered his head. What should we do, sir? Musa tapped his finger against the armrest. His smile widened, but his eyes remained cold. When a bird sings too loudly, he said, you do not chase it first. You watch where it builds its nest. Outside, the sun fell hard on Benin City, and somewhere between the market road and the palm groves, Adesuwa's decision had already begun to pull danger toward the house that was slowly becoming her own. Before sunrise, Adesuwa stood before the mirror while Ife tied a plain brown wrapper around her waist. The lace and coral beads of the house were left inside the carved box. Her hair was covered with a simple scarf, and the dress she wore had no sign of wealth. Looking at herself, she almost saw the girl who had left Pa Egosa's compound, but the eyes were no longer the same. Fear still lived there, but it no longer sat alone. Ife adjusted the scarf and stepped back. If Madam Ivy sees you like this, she will say we are turning the chief's wife into a market girl. Good, Adesuwa said. Market women hear more truth than queens. Downstairs, Chief Osagie waited in the side courtyard, not at the main entrance. He wore a faded blue kaftan and no beads. Without the signs of rank, he could almost pass for a wealthy trader, but nothing could hide the command in his posture. Two men stood near the gate, pretending to check a cart loaded with empty baskets. He looked at Adesuwa for a moment too long. "What?" she asked. "You look like yourself," he said. "Did I not look like myself before?" "You looked like a woman carrying a house on her shoulders." "And now?" "Now you look like a woman who has decided where to place it." She did not know how to answer, so she looked away first. They left through the back road, where palm trees leaned over the path and morning mist still clung to the grass. Osagie walked beside Adesuwa, close enough to guard, far enough not to claim. Ife followed half a step behind. The two estate men trailed at a distance, their cutlasses hidden beneath raffia sacks. The road to Iyarisi's house passed near the old market road. Women were setting up trays of tomatoes, smoked fish, pepper and gari. A downfall rattled past in yellow paint and dust. Life continued loudly. Iyarisi lived behind small shops, in a house patched with rusted zinc. She was a Yoruba widow with sharp eyes and tired hands. When she opened the door and saw Osagie, her face closed at once. "Chief," she said, bowing with stiffness, "what brings you here so early?" Adesuwa stepped forward before Osagie could speak. "Good morning, ma. My name is Adesuwa." "I know who you are," the woman said. "Everybody knows. They say your father used you to pay debts and the chief carried you away." The words struck hard, but Adesuwa did not retreat. Shame had already met her at the compound gate. "They say many things," Adesuwa answered softly. "Some are true, some are not complete." Iyarisi looked at her with suspicion. "What do you want from me?" "To listen first." The widow laughed without joy. "People with powerful husbands do not come to listen, they come to collect." Osagie remained silent. Adesuwa understood then that this was her road to walk. If he spoke, his name would enter before her truth. "Musa came for me too," she said. "He wanted me in his house because my father had nothing left. Chief Osagie married me so Musa could not take me. I did not choose the shame, but I know the hand that pushed my family into it." Iyarisi's face shifted slightly. "Efe told me your husband lost land to Musa." The widow's eyes flashed. "Lost? Is land a handkerchief that can fall from pockets?" Musa swallowed it. "My husband borrowed money when our son had fever. The paper said one amount. The clerk read another. By the next season, interest had become bigger than the farm itself. My husband went to argue. 2 weeks later, they found him near the express road with his core broken. They called it accident." Adesuwa felt cold spread through her body. "Did you report?" "To who?" "Police drank malt in Musa's parlor that same week. The land papers changed name. My son and I became tenants on the soil my husband inherited from his father." Osagie finally spoke. "I paid the debt after his death. Musa had no legal claim after that." Iyarisi turned sharply. "You paid?" "Yes. You never told me. If I had, Musa would have asked who stood with me. He would have returned to you." The widow stared at him, anger and gratitude fighting in her face. "So you let people call you proud and cold while you were doing this?" "I have been called worse." Adesuwa stepped closer. "Ma, we need people to speak. Not whispers in kitchens, but testimony before the Oba's council and the courts. If enough families stand together, Musa cannot silence everybody. Yarisi's hands began to tremble. You are young. You think courage is sweet. Courage can make children fatherless. I know fear, Adesuwa said. I stood in my father's compound, waiting to be handed over like a debt paper. I know what fear tastes like, but if we keep swallowing it, our daughters will inherit it. The room fell silent. Iyarisi looked at Efe, then at Osagie, then back at Adesuwa. Her eyes filled, but she did not let the tears fall. My husband's name was Kunle, she said. If the day comes, I will speak his name before them. Adesuwa reached for her hand. The widow allowed it. When they left, the sun had climbed higher. Outside, Osagie walked in silence for some time. Then he said, You were right. Adesuwa looked at him. Say it again. I want to hear it clearly. He gave her a serious look, but there was warmth under it. You were right. Their second stop was a small compound near a mechanic workshop where red dust covered everything. Pamonde Egbe, an old farmer, had lost 2 cassava acres to Musa after a loan for fertilizer became impossible to repay. At first, he refused to listen, saying powerful men only fought until poor people became the floor they marched on. But Adesuwa sat near him and told him how her father's death had reached her own body. The old man's anger slowly changed direction. He spoke of Musa's boys cutting his plantain before harvest, then beating his son until one eye became useless. When Osagie asked if the son would speak, Pamonde looked at him for a long time. If I tell him that the man who paid for his surgery is standing here, maybe he will. Adesuwa turned to Osagie, startled. He only said, the boy needed a doctor. Something opened in her chest. She had seen the papers, but hearing living mouths speak of Osagie's hidden kindness made it harder to keep him at a distance. By afternoon, they had visited 2 more houses. A Hausa trader named Amina showed them the ledger where Musa's clerk had changed figures after her husband died. A young tailor admitted he had carried messages for Musa out of fear. Each story added weight to Adesuwa's heart. By the time they stopped near a roadside stall for water, her feet ached and her spirit felt bruised. Osagie noticed. We should return. No, she said. One more. You are tired. So are the people we are asking to be brave. Strength is not proved by collapsing. I am not collapsing. You are swaying. I am standing. They faced each other in the shade of a mango tree. Osagie lowered his voice. Adesuwa, I agreed to 1 visit. You have turned 1 into 4. And you have not stopped me. I am about to. You cannot command me every time you become afraid. His eyes darkened. Do not mistake fear for control. Then do not disguise fear as command. The words came out sharper than she intended. Osagie took 1 breath, then another. You are right, he said quietly, but I am still taking you home. The gentleness in his surrender disarmed her more than anger would have done. She looked at his face and saw not pride, but worry, real worry for her. All right, she whispered. On the way back, the sky turned the color of bruised metal. Efe walked ahead with one of the estate men, giving Adesuwa and Osagie more space than was proper and less than was accidental. You think I do not understand danger, Adesuwa said after a while. I think you understand it too well and are trying to punish it by walking into it. Maybe. Bravery must live long enough to finish its work, he said. Adesuwa looked at him. Did you tell Omoreji that? He went still. I told her many times to be careful. She told me the same thing you did, that people do not stop suffering because we stay safe. Adesuwa felt the old ghost between them again, but it no longer made her feel like an intruder. Then do not make her memory a chain around your neck, she whispered. Osagie stopped walking. His eyes held hers, full of pain and something deeper. The wind moved her scarf loose and he reached out, then stopped before touching it. "May I?" he asked. Her heartbeat changed. She nodded. He adjusted the edge of the scarf with surprising care. His fingers brushed her temple lightly, and the small contact sent warmth through her. He stepped back at once, as if the touch had unsettled him too. They returned to the estate before the rain broke. Madam Ivy was waiting on the veranda, arms folded. "One visit," he said, she announced. "I counted the time. That one was not one visit." Osagie looks like a boy caught stealing palm wine. "Good evening, Auntie." "Do not good evening me. This girl is pale with tiredness." Inside, Mama Uyi brought hot pepper soup, rice and fried plantain. Adesuwa ate more than she expected. The warmth returned strength to her body, but the stories of the day stayed in her mind like names carved into wood. Later, Osagie found her in the inner courtyard. Rain fell beyond the roof, silver in the lamplight. "I have sent word to 2 trusted men," he said. "If Iyarisi and Pamonde agree fully, their statements will be written carefully, not in a way Musa can trace before we are ready." "Good. You should rest tomorrow." "We both know I will not." "Must you fight every instruction?" "Only the ones that sound like cages." "And if I say please?" That stopped her. His voice had changed. No order, no title, no war. Adesuwa looked at him carefully. "Then I may listen." "Please rest tomorrow." The softness in the word made her chest ache. "I will rest in the morning." That is half obedience. That is my best offer. For the first time, he truly smiled. It was brief, almost reluctant, but it transformed him. The years of grief did not disappear, but light touched them. Adesuwa felt her breath catch. Osagie seemed to realize what had happened and looked away. "Good night, Adesuwa." "Good night, Chief." He paused. "Osagie." The name stood between them, waiting. She held it on her tongue for a moment, feeling its weight. "Good night, Osagie." He closed his eyes briefly, as if the sound had touched something hidden. Then he left. That same night, far from the estate, Musa listened to reports from 3 different mouths. A widow had received visitors, a farmer had spoken, a tailor had cried, and everywhere the new wife's name moved like Hamatan fire. Musa sat very still while his men waited. "Chief Osagie is foolish," he said at last. "He thinks papers and tears can defeat money." One of his men shifted. "Should we warn the families?" "No," Musa said. "Fear works better when it arrives without knocking." He rose and walked to the window. Rain struck the glass. In its reflection, his smile looked almost gentle. "Let them gather courage," he murmured. "Then we will choose one house and burn the courage out of all of them." At the estate, Adesuwa lay awake, still hearing the voices of Iyarisi, Pamonde, Amina, and the tailor. She had gone out to collect testimonies, but she had returned with something else. The knowledge that her own pain could become a key for another person's silence. For the first time since the day she was taken, she did not feel like a debt paid by a father. She felt like a woman standing at the beginning of a road. And though danger waited somewhere ahead, another truth had begun to frighten her even more. When she closed her eyes, she no longer saw only Musa's shadow. She saw Osagie's brief smile in the rain-lit courtyard, and her heart, foolish and wounded, held on to it like a secret flame. By noon, Osagie sent for Adesuwa. She found him in the study with Madam Ivy and the head steward, Mr. Okon. Papers covered the desk, receipts, testimonies, an old loan agreement bearing Musa's seal. Osagie's face was calm, but the room carried the tension of people preparing for a storm. Yarisi has agreed, he said. Pamonde's son will speak if we can guarantee his mother's safety. Amina sent her ledger through her nephew. Adesuwa felt hope rise. Then it is working. It is beginning, Madam Ivy said. Beginning is where enemies first sharpen their knives. Mr. Okon cleared his throat. One of our men saw Musa's clerk near the old market road asking questions. Osagie's jaw tightened. He knows, Adesuwa said. He suspects, Osagie answered. That is enough. He gathered the papers into a leather folder. Tomorrow I will go to the palace first. If the council agrees to hear the families, Musa's influence will weaken. After that, we go to court. I am coming. No. The word returned like an old wall between them. Adesuwa's face hardened. Do not begin again. This is different. Visiting homes is one thing. Standing before the palace council is another. Musa's men will be watching. Then let them watch me stand. Madam Ivy struck her walking stick on the floor. Both of you should stop behaving like two goats fighting on a narrow bridge. Osagie, she is part of this matter. Adesuwa, courage without timing is just noise wearing fine clothes. Osagie spoke more gently. Let me open the road first. Once the council agrees, your voice will matter more. If you go now, Musa will know exactly how much you helped. He already knows enough. Not enough to strike in the right place. Those words settled coldly in her chest. That evening, the estate was placed under quiet watch. Men moved near the outer walls without lamps. Dogs were brought closer. The kitchen women finished early, and the stable boys were told to sleep in shifts. Nothing was announced, but everyone felt the change. Night came heavy and windless. Adesuwa sat in her room, trying to read and failing. Efe had fallen asleep on a mat near the door. The lamp burned low. Outside, frogs called from the wet ground. Then a shout tore through the estate. Another shout followed, then running feet. Adesuwa rushed to the balcony. In the distance, beyond the palm grove, orange light rose into the sky. Fire, Efe whispered. Adesuwa's heart stopped. Where? A servant pounded on the door. Madame, Chief says stay inside. But Adesuwa was already running. She flew down the stairs with Efe behind her. In the courtyard, workers rushed toward the outer road. Osagie emerged from the study with a rifle in one hand and fury in his face. Adesuwa, go back. Where is the fire? He hesitated half a second too long. My father, she breathed. Osagie caught her arm. Men have gone already. I am going. No. If Musa set that fire, he may be waiting for you on the road. At that moment, a motorcycle roared through the gates. A young estate worker jumped down, covered in dust. Chief, Pa Egosa is alive. We found him near the old cassava field. The house is burning. He is coming behind us in the truck. Minutes stretched like hours. Then headlights appeared. The truck rolled in slowly. In the back, wrapped in a blanket, sat Pa Egosa. Adesuwa screamed his name and ran. Her father looked like a man dug out of ashes. His clothes were burned at the edges, his arms scraped, his face streaked with soot and tears. When she reached him, he tried to stand and failed. Adesuwa, he sobbed. He burned it. He burned everything. She climbed into the truck and held him. The smell of smoke clung to his skin. He trembled so violently that she felt his bones knocking inside him. Pa Egosa wept. They came after dark, men with cloth over their faces. They poured fuel near the storehouse. One of them said I should tell Chief Osagie to leave matters that do not concern him. They laughed while the roof caught fire. Adesuwa closed her eyes. The old compound, her mother's room, the mango tree, the last walls of her childhood, all burning because she had dared to speak. Osagie stood beside the truck, his face carved from rage. His hand tightened around the rifle, but when Adesuwa looked at him, he lowered the weapon slowly. He helped Bayegosa down. "Take him inside. Call Dr. Imade. Wake Madam Ivy. No one sleeps tonight." The estate moved at once. Bayegosa was carried into a guest room. Efe brought water, cloth, and ointment. Madam Ivy arrived with wrapper thrown over her nightdress, commanding everyone with a voice that shook fear out of the room. Adesuwa stayed beside her father while the doctor cleaned his wounds. Bayegosa cried without shame. Each sob struck her heart, but the strangest thing was that she no longer felt only anger toward him. The man who had given her away was now broken under the same cruelty that had trapped him. When the doctor finally left, Bayegosa slept from exhaustion. Adesuwa walked out into the corridor on unsteady legs. Smoke seemed to remain inside her lungs. Osagie waited at the far end of the hall. For a moment, she only stared at him. Then everything inside her collapsed. She covered her mouth, but the sob broke through. Osagie crossed the distance and stopped just before touching her. "Adesuwa." That was all he said. She stepped into him. His arms closed around her at once, strong and careful. She gripped his clothes and cried against his chest. For the first time since she entered his house, his nearness felt like a place where she could fall without hitting the ground. "I brought this to him," she whispered. "Because I spoke, Musa burned my father's house." "No." Osagie's voice was low and fierce. "Musa brought this. Do not help him carry blame that belongs on his own head." "But if I had stayed quiet, he would still have found a way to hurt you. Silence never satisfies men like him. It only teaches them where to press harder." After a long while, she lifted her face. His eyes were closed, dark with rage and tenderness together. "I am going tomorrow," he said, "to the palace, to the commissioner, to the court, to anyone who still remembers justice. I will carry the papers, the testimonies, your father's wounds, and the ashes if I must. Musa has crossed the last line. I am coming with you." "No." This time the refusal was soft and painful. She moved back. "Again?" "Tonight proved what I feared. If he cannot reach me, he will reach for you. If I take you openly tomorrow, I hand him the exact target he wants. I do not want to wait here like a frightened child. You are not a child. That is why I am begging, not commanding." The word begging silenced her. Osagie took her hands. "Stay here. Guard your father. Help Madam Ivy keep the witnesses safe. If I fail, this house will need your courage. If I succeed, your voice will stand where it can change everything. You speak as if you may not return." His jaw tightened. "I speak as a man who has buried one woman he loved because he did not see the trap in time." Adesuwa stopped breathing. Loved. The word had not been said directly, yet it stood between them like flame. Osagie looked away. "I should not have said that." "Why?" "Because you came into my life through pain, not choice. I have no right to place my feelings on your shoulders." "Your feelings?" "Adesuwa." "Say it." The corridor was quiet, except for distant footsteps and night insects outside. "When I brought you here, I told myself I was only saving you from Musa. I told myself duty was enough. But each day you have stood before fear and refused to bow. You entered my sorrow and did not mock it. You saw the worst parts of this house and still chose to help people beyond its walls." He opened his eyes. "I am afraid of what you have become to me." "And what is that?" my peace and my danger." The words moved through her like thunder. Adesuwa stepped closer. "I hated you. I still hate what happened, but I do not hate you now." His breath changed. She lifted a trembling hand and touched his cheek. "I do not know when it changed. Maybe in the stable, maybe at the ravine, maybe when I saw all those names you saved and never claimed. Maybe today, when you held me and did not ask for anything." He closed his hand around hers. "Do not say this because of grief. I am saying it because grief has removed the lies." Their faces were close enough that she felt his breath. Osagie looked at her lips, then back to her eyes. Even then, he did not move first. "Adesuwa," he said hoarsely, "if I kiss you now, it must be because you want it, not because you are hurt, not because I protected you, not because custom calls you my wife." "I want it," she said. Osagie bent his head and his lips touched hers. The kiss began carefully, almost with disbelief. Then the grief, fear, and longing of many days rose between them and deepened it. Adesuwa clung to him, and he held her as if she were both flame and prayer. There was nothing forced in it, nothing taken. It was a meeting after a long road neither of them had chosen, yet both had survived. When they parted, her forehead rested against his chest. "I will return," he whispered. "You must." Before dawn, the estate was awake again. Osagie prepared to leave with Mr. Okon, 2 armed guards, the folder of documents and sealed letters. Pa Egosa, weak but stubborn, insisted on going as a living witness. Adesuwa begged him not to, but he held her hand. "I failed you once," he said. "Let me stand right this time." At the gate, Osagie mounted his horse. Adesuwa stood wrapped in a shawl, exhausted from a night without sleep. "Keep the gates watched," he told Madam Ivy. "No stranger enters. No servant leaves without permission. Send word through the north road only." Madam Ivy nodded. "Go and finish what you started." Osagie's gaze returned to Adesuwa. "I will send a messenger by evening." "Come back yourself," she said. "I promise." Then he rode out with the men and Pa Egosa in the cart behind him. Dust rose after them until the road swallowed them from view. By afternoon, witnesses began arriving quietly through different roads. Iyarisi came with her son. Pa Monde came leaning on a stick. Amina sent her ledger with her brother. Madam Ivy organized rooms, food, and watchmen with iron discipline. Adesuwa moved among the people, listening, comforting, collecting names. She had no time to collapse. Evening approached with no messenger. Then one of the stable boys ran into the courtyard, breathless. "Fire! Fire at the back stables!" Adesuwa's blood turned cold. Not again. She ran with Efe and the others toward the stables. Smoke curled from the far building where dry hay was stored. Horses cried in panic. Workers shouted, throwing water, cutting ropes, pulling animals away from danger. Adesuwa grabbed a wet cloth and helped lead one trembling mare into the open yard. For nearly an hour, the estate fought the flames. At last, the fire was contained. No horse died, but the hay store was lost, and the message was clear. Musa had not waited for Osagie to return. Efe clutched Adesuwa's arm. "Madam, we must go inside." Adesuwa looked toward the main house. Lamps glowed in the windows. The estate men were still scattered around the stables. The witnesses were frightened. Madam Ivy was ordering guards to search the walls. A cold certainty entered Adesuwa's heart. The fire was not the attack. It was the distraction. Before she could speak, a scream came from the direction of the house. Adesuwa turned. The front door stood open, and men she did not know were moving inside. At their center, dressed in white, stood Alhaji Musa Danladi. Across the courtyard, Adesuwa saw his gold tooth flash, and his smile told her that the real night had only just begun. Musa entered the house as if he owned the very air inside it. His men spread through the hall with guns, knives and cutlasses, half hidden under flowing kaftans. Servants froze near the walls. The witnesses, who had come seeking courage, stood with fear returning to their faces like an old sickness. Adesuwa stood at the edge of the courtyard, smoke still clinging to her dress from the stable fire. Ife gripped her hand so tightly that their fingers hurt. Across the open space, Musa smiled. "My chief's wife," he called softly, "you have been busy." Madam Ivy stepped between him and the hall, her walking stick planted like a spear. "Musa Danladi, you have entered a house where you were not invited." Musa bowed with false respect, but his eyes returned to Adesuwa. Most of Osagie's guards were still at the stables. The attack had been planned well. Fire behind, fear inside, and Musa walking into the gap like a snake entering a chicken coop. "What do you want?" Adesuwa asked. Musa laughed. "Your father owed me. Your chief insults me. Your mouth has been waking poor people who should have remained asleep." "Enough," Adesuwa said. Musa smiled. "This is why I came. Chief Osagie thinks he can ride to the palace with papers and old women's tears. Let him. By the time he returns, he will find what happens when a man uses his wife as a weapon." Two of his men seized Madam Ivy. Another pushed Ife aside. Adesuwa tried to run, but Musa caught her wrist. His fingers closed like iron. "Leave me!" she screamed. He pulled her close enough that she smelled perfume, sweat, and smoke. "You were supposed to enter my house quietly. Instead, Osagie took what I had chosen. I was never yours. Everything can belong to a man who has enough power to take it." Adesuwa twisted and struck his face with her free hand. The slap rang through the hall. For one stunned breath, nobody moved. Then Musa's expression became cold. He dragged her towards the door. She fought, kicking and calling for help, but his men closed around them. Ife screamed her name and was held back. Musa pushed Adesuwa outside, where smoke covered the moon in grey clouds. A black jeep waited near the steps. Adesuwa dug her heels into the ground. "Osagie will find you." Musa forced her into the back seat. "That is the plan." The jeep tore out of the estate, followed by two motorcycles. The road outside was dark. Trees flashed past. The smell of burnt hay disappeared, replaced by wet leaves and river mud. "Where are you taking me?" "You have heard stories of Omoreji, have you not?" Her blood chilled. Musa smiled. "Ah, so the dead woman still lives in that house." The jeep turned onto a rough road. Adesuwa knew it before she saw the rubber trees, the river road, the ravine. "No," she whispered. "Yes," Musa said. "A house that does not learn from one grave deserves another." At the ravine, the jeep stopped. The night air was cold and full of the sound of the river below. Moonlight touched the broken stones near the edge. Adesuwa remembered Osagie standing there, unable to move closer, grief locked inside his body. Musa dragged her toward the edge. His men remained by the vehicles, uneasy. The drop below was dark, alive with rushing water and rocks. One push would erase her from the earth. "Why?" she asked. "Why hate him this much?" Musa's face twisted. "Because he was born into a name that opened doors, while I had to buy every door, every chair, every handshake. Then he used that name to take debtors out of my hand. You destroyed people. I invested in weakness. They signed. because hunger held the pen. His hand tightened on her arm. Omoreji spoke like you. She believed poor people deserved rescue. I warned her to stop. Adesuwa felt the world narrow. You killed her. Musa leaned closer, his gold tooth glinting. I met her on this road after the rain. Her horse was nervous. The ground was soft. One push and the story wrote itself. For a moment, Adesuwa could not breathe. Osagie had carried guilt for 3 years while the murderer walked free. You animal, she whispered. Now Osagie will learn completely. Adesuwa looked toward the road. He has gone to the palace. You cannot stop what has started. Musa laughed. By now he has heard of the attack. He will come running here, only like a man afraid to lose another wife. When he comes, my men will finish him. Fear struck her, but beneath it something stronger rose. Osagie must not walk blind into the trap. She had to delay Musa. She had to survive. You think killing me will make people quiet? You are wrong. They have already spoken. The papers are already out of your reach. His eyes narrowed. Where are they? She smiled, though her lips trembled. With the people you call weak. Musa shoved her closer to the edge. Loose stones rolled into the darkness. Adesuwa gasped, her body bending away from the drop. Do not test me. I am telling you that you have lost. A sound broke through the night. Hooves. Engines. Voices. Musa's men turned toward the road. Headlights appeared between the rubber trees, followed by lanterns and the flash of rifles. The first horse burst into view, with Osagie riding hard, his face fierce with terror and fury. Behind him came palace guards, policemen, Pa Egosa in a truck, and several men from the estate. Osagie reined in sharply. Let her go. His voice did not rise, but the command carried through the ravine like thunder. Musa pulled Adesuwa in front of him, one arm around her throat. Come closer, and she falls. Osagie went still. Every guard stopped. Adesuwa saw his face in the moonlight. All the pain of Omoreji's death had returned, now sharpened by the sight of Adesuwa at the same edge. I know, she called, fighting Musa's grip. Osagie, I know what happened. He killed Omoreji. He pushed her here. The words struck him like a bullet. His face changed, first shock, then grief, then rage so deep it seemed almost silent. Musa laughed near her ear. Yes, Chief, your precious Omoreji did not fall by accident. A police officer stepped forward. Alhaji Musa Danladi, you are under arrest for arson, abduction, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Drop your weapon and release her. Musa spat on the ground. You came because Osagie finally found officers he could buy? Pa Egosa climbed down from the truck, weak but standing. No, they came because we spoke. Iyarisi appeared beside the truck, her son holding her arm. Pa Monde stood behind her. Amina's brother held a ledger wrapped in cloth. Others were there too. Fear had come with them, but it had not stopped them. Musa's eyes moved over them, and for the first time, doubt entered his face. Adesuwa felt his grip loosen for half a second. She drove her heel down hard on his foot and twisted with all her strength. Musa cursed and lost balance. A shot cracked the air, fired not at Adesuwa, but at Musa's arm by one of the palace guards. Musa screamed and released her. Adesuwa fell to her knees, scraping her palms on stone. Osagie ran toward her. Musa staggered backward, clutching his bleeding arm. For one wild second, he tried to grab Adesuwa again, but his heel slipped on loose gravel near the edge. His eyes widened. He reached out, not in command now, but in terror. His fingers caught only air. Then he fell backward into the darkness. His scream tore through the ravine and vanished into the roar of the river below. Silence followed. Osagie reached Adesuwa and dropped to his knees, pulling her into his arms. She clung to him, shaking so violently she could not speak. "I am here," he whispered. "I have you." She buried her face against his chest. "He killed her. Osagie, he killed Omoreji." "I heard." His voice broke. "I heard you." "I am sorry." He held her tighter. "You lived. That is the mercy I needed tonight." Around them, Musa's men were disarmed and forced to the ground. The police bound their hands. The witnesses stood together at the road, stunned by their own survival. Baegosa came slowly towards Adesuwa. His face crumpled when he saw her bloodied palms. "My child." She reached for him with one hand while still holding Osagie with the other. For the first time, the two men did not stand on opposite sides of her pain. By dawn, the estate gates opened to receive them back. Musa's surviving men arrived in chains. Madam Ivy stood at the entrance with her walking stick and eyes bright with tears. When she saw Adesuwa, she did not scold. She only pulled the young woman close and held her. "You stubborn child," she whispered. "You have come back from the mouth of death." The days that followed changed Benin land. With Musa dead and his ledger seized, fear began to lose its throne. Families came forward one after another. False interest was cancelled. Land taken through threats returned to rightful owners. Those who had served Musa faced judgment, and those who had suffered spoke names long buried by terror. Baegosa remained at the estate while his compound was rebuilt. The mango tree had survived the fire, blackened but alive. When Adesuwa visited the ruins weeks later, she placed her palm against the trunk and cried for what had been lost and for what had refused to die. One evening, Osagie took Adesuwa back to the river road. They stood near the ravine, close enough to hear the water below. He brought white flowers and laid them on a stone. "Omoreji," he said softly, "the truth has come home." Adesuwa stood beside him. She did not speak. Some grief needed silence, not comfort. After a while, Osagie took her hand. "For 3 years, I thought I failed her because I did not stop her from going. Now I know the guilt belonged elsewhere." "And your love for her?" He looked at the flowers. "It will remain, but it no longer has to keep me buried." Adesuwa squeezed his hand. "Good." He turned to her. "You taught me that protection can become a prison if fear holds the key. And you taught me that being protected does not always mean being owned." A small smile touched his face. "We have both been difficult students. The best ones are." He laughed then, a real laugh, and the sound moved through Adesuwa like sunlight entering a room long closed. Months passed, and the estate became a different place. Women came to Adesuwa with debt papers and old fears. Osagie opened part of the estate for farmers to check contracts before signing them. The house that had received her as a trembling girl became a place where other trembling people entered and left standing straighter. One quiet afternoon, Adesuwa and Osagie sat beneath the almond tree where she had first faced her father after the marriage. The air smelled of ripe mango and distant rain. "I am thinking of the first day," she said. "I thought my life was ending." "It was a cruel road," he whispered. "Yes, but I did not remain what cruelty tried to make me." He kissed her hand. "You became the woman who saved us all." "We saved one another." Adesuwa leaned on his shoulder. After a moment, she placed his hand gently over her stomach. He went still. "Adesuwa?" She smiled, eyes shining. "Madam Ivy says she has known for 2 weeks, but she was waiting for me to stop pretending." Osagie looked at her, disbelief and joy breaking across his face. "A child?" "Our child. If it is a girl," Adesuwa said softly, I want to call her Omoreji. The name passed through him like pain becoming light. Are you sure? She was part of the love that taught you how to protect. Let her name live without fear. He pulled Adesuwa into his arms, holding her as the afternoon sun settled over the estate. No darkness rose to claim the moment. No death stood between them. No enemy waited at the gate. The past had not vanished. It had become soil. From it, something tender and strong had begun to grow. And in the house where Adesuwa had once arrived as a bargain, laughter, justice, and love finally found a permanent home.